Hello, 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 and welcome back to DLA Alternative. It's your boy Brendan, and I hope everyone is doing phenomenal as always. I know it has been a while, but I have been extremely fucking busy at this place you want to call work. But I know you don't want to hear about that bullshit, and I know you want to hear about some more Stranger Things theories, so let's get right the fuck into this one, people. And yes, as you can tell by the thumbnail and title, this one is going to be called the ALIAS Investigation Theory, and this is going to be part one. And in this theory, if you did not check out part one and part two of the Hawkins Post Theory, go check that one out because this is going to refer back to all of those, all right? And this is going to connect those to all of these future ones, all right? But basically, real quickly in those ones, we analyze some newspaper articles, the ones Eleven looks at and the ones that we see that Hopper and Powell look at, and we get some interesting writers' names, all right? And some writers' names being Benjamin Buck, being A. Ward, a staff writer, being Tom Smith, being Richard Fryer, and all of that good stuff. But there is one that we are going to do today, and that is our culprit being T. Bridges. And the name T. Bridges, I cannot get my fucking mind off of, people. I swear to you, I cannot get my mind off of it, and I know it has to have a connection to something. And I kind of talked about it in those theories, but the main connection I can truly think of, and I can't get my mind off of, is that Chapter 7 title that we're going to have in Season 5. The Chapter 7 title being The Bridge, okay? And the name T. Bridges, I know there has to have a connection to. So what we're going to do in this alias investigation theory, all right, and you might be confused why I'm calling it alias investigation, is because I don't think that these are actual writers' names, all right? I don't think they're actual people, all right? Or they might be people, but not with these actual names. I just think these are actual code names or aliases. Because I started thinking about the names actually specifically, and they come off like word games once again, and I've mentioned that in other theories that sometimes the names of things are actually coming off like wordplay, all right, like word games, all right, if you put two and two together. And I mentioned that a lot in the Kali theory with the graffiti, all right, but in this one, if you really put those names together, they kind of come off like word games. But in this one, we're going to talk about the name T. Bridges, and it's going to get real interesting because I googled some shit and there's some fucking interesting things about the name The Bridge connected to the name T. Bridges and connected to some other shit that is going to be part two of this theory, also talking about T. Bridges. So let's get right into this one. I'm going to try and make this as quick and sweet as possible for this part one of this theory. So let's get right into this one, people. I'm excited. All right, so the first thing we need to figure out is who the fuck is T. Bridges? Is it actually a person, or is it just a meaning or a connection to what articles are what, being the most factual? Because the name T. Bridges comes off like the most factual articles that we analyzed in those Hawkins Post theories. So if T. Bridges is specifically to the articles that are the most truthful, that makes things interesting, because we see that article at the end of season 1 being the boy who came back to life article, and that is not the same as the zombie boy article we talked about in the Hawkins Post theories. But the main thing about that article at the end of season 1 that's interesting is it does not have a writer's name, but it is extremely factual. It's almost the exact truth, but also some word usage that was also taken from another article. So there's some mixed up shit in these articles, all right? So we need to figure out who these writers are and if they are actual people. And like I said, in this one, we're going to talk about the name T. Bridges. So how are we going to figure this out? We need to analyze the connections here, okay? So the connection is T. Bridges, and I have this connection that it's going to connect somehow to the last episode, one of the last episodes being The Bridge in season 5. So the main thing we got to figure out is how that connects to that episode, and also to newspaper articles as a whole, and also to the specific writer's name that we do not know why this has any relevance at all. But the thing about these two, all right, is that there is a major difference, all right, and one is singular and one is plural. And the episode title for season 5, chapter 7, The Bridge, is singular. It seems important. It seems like a proper noun. Maybe not, but it seems important, like more important than T. Bridges being the bridges, maybe. So if we think logically, that could connect the newspaper articles in a way, being the bridges, okay, T. Bridges being a bunch of newspaper articles written by the Bridges. And that chapter 7 title being The Bridge could possibly be the connection connection that's the most important newspaper article for any reason. And the thing about that is I do have a reason that why all of that makes sense. So let's get right into this with the connections, all right? And the things that we actually know in the show already that connect everything so far. And if you know what I'm talking about already, put your answers in the motherfucking comments and hit that motherfucking like button, people. But what we gotta do is connect the obvious things that have relevance to everything in this show so far. And one of those things being memory, okay? And you might be asking yourself, how the fuck does memory connect to a bridge whatsoever? Well, like I said, a simple Google search answers some questions just right away with some basic facts. And all I'm gonna say is the bridge of memory apparently is a fucking big thing and has a lot of fucking meaning and a lot of relevance to this show as a whole. So let's just see what the meaning of the bridge of memory actually is. The bridge of memory refers to a metaphorical concept that represents the connection between the past and present, signifying how memories act as a link that allows us to access and understand experiences from our past, effectively bridging the gap between then and now. It symbolizes the ability to recall and reflect on past events, allowing them to influence our current understanding and perspective. So logically, this just shows us that memory is a way to bridge the gap between the present and the past, and not the future. It does not mention that, all right? Because a memory you cannot have of the future, and that does not make logical fucking sense. And theoretically, it wouldn't make sense in this show, but maybe it will. But the major thing you got to keep in mind that a logical sense of a bridge of memory is a bridge to the past, okay? From the present to the past, not to the future. So just keep that in mind. But let's read the key points that pop up as well, because there's more connections, all right? So this key point says connection between past and present. The bridge imagery highlights how memories act as a pathway that allows us to traverse between different time periods. So that's interesting, but you got to keep in mind, like I said, that those time periods would be from the present and in the past. So from any time in the past that you have a memory of to that present point, not to the future, okay? But that present point is continuously going. So that past point is continuously growing as well. So just keep that in mind. I don't know if that has any importance, but that's just something I thought of while reading this. In this next key point, it says personal and collective memory. This phrase can apply to both individual recollections and shared memories within a community or society. So that gets very interesting to this show as a whole, because we see a lot of that in season 4, that this memory, or at least these memories, are being affected, and the mindsets of the people of Hawkins are being affected by Vecna, okay? And when we see him mind flying, not flaying, mind flying in that one scene, okay, when he's looking through and he finds Patrick, we see him looking through a bunch of people and he gets to certain people and we hear their thoughts, okay? But the thing about that is those thoughts are actually memories, in my opinion, and those are memories of past events. And those are past events and memories that those people are holding on to deep down. And those are the types of people that Vecna is trying to find in this season. He's trying to figure out and find those weak-minded people. So you got to think logically that that's what we're seeing in that scene, is that that's what Vecna is looking into, is those repressed or those held off memories, okay, that those people have. Those dark memories that are in their mind that Vecna is trying to attack. But this last key point, it says importance of reflection. It says accessing and revisiting memories through the bridge enables us to learn from past experiences and shape our current understanding. But do you see the obvious right here and see what it says? It says the bridge as a singular thing. So the bridge, even within the bridge of memory, is its own thing. So it's its own singular thing. And that's the next step we're going to talk about, okay? And the next connection to the major thing that connects this whole show as a whole and what's relevant in this whole show and the most major thing that people are trying to figure out. But if you look at that and read that true meaning, it basically says that the bridge of memory is a way to connect your past memories to shape your present, and that will benefit your future. And it does not mention the future, but that's why it mentions the bridge as a singular thing, because that bridge can also connect to the future in a way. And that bridge has major importance, like I said, but the major thing about this key point is that if you can connect your past memories, okay, and you can think about how to fix what happened in the past with those past memories. That will shape your present, and that will have effect on your future. You will not have memory of that future yet, but that's what's to come, and that's what's going to fix the present, which will affect your future. And that's why that bridge being a singular thing has major importance. So let's just jump right into the next fucking step, all right? And once again, if you already know what I am talking about, because it's the most obvious answer and the most curious thing in this show that people are so curious to know all about and why it has so much importance and what's actually going on. And that answer is, people, the most obvious one being time. And how does time connect to a bridge whatsoever, you might be asking yourself? Well, the bridge of time is one of the biggest things I have ever looked up. Connecting this show as a whole and connecting a lot of different things in this show and making things actually make a little bit more sense, okay? So let's just look up what the meaning of the bridge of time is, all right? The bridge of time is a metaphorical phrase that represents a connection or transition between different periods in time, signifying a way to access or navigate the past and the future, often implying a moment of deep reflection or understanding that spans across different eras. Essentially, it symbolizes a link between the present and other points in history. So right here, people, like I said, the bridge of time strictly will connect everything, okay? And that connects the obvious past, present, and future events, okay? And we all know that, all right? But the bridge of time is the major connection and the bridge that connects to other things, okay? So let's look up the key points. Connection and transition. Like a physical bridge that allows passage between two land masses, the bridge of time signifies a way to move between different points in time, whether through memory, imagination, or historical study. So therefore, just with the simple Google search, people, it connects it, and that bridge from the bridge of memory strictly is the bridge of time. And like we said, the bridge of memory only connects past and present. That does not connect the future. So imagination, based off these three things it mentions right here, could be the only thing that connects the future. But if we're truly thinking of time itself, okay, that connects future in all of these different ways, okay? And all these fucking ways we still do not understand in today's society and understand in this world, okay? People think they know, but they really don't fucking know. And in this show, like I said, time is so confusing, and we know that. So let's just get to the next key point, because there's some more connections. The next key point says symbolic power. Bridges often carry symbolic weight, representing connection, transformation, and overcoming obstacles, which translates to the idea of bridging time as a means to connect with the past or envision the future. So therefore, envision the future is the key point right here, in my opinion, connecting to this show. Envisioning the future, and we have a major connection about envisioning the future in this show. And if you know it, put it in the comments and like the fucking video. But my major point is that we see this in season 4 once again with Vecna and Nancy, okay? And this is when we see Vecna affect Nancy, okay? And he says, I want to show you where I've been, and I want to show you where I'm going. And in my opinion, no doubt in my mind, based off of just this connection right here, that's what he's showing her. He's showing her his vision of the future, not exactly what is going to happen. He's showing what he wants to happen, which makes a lot more sense to this show, in my opinion, because everybody thinks what he showed her is actually the factual truth of what is going to happen in this show. But we don't know that, people. We just know that whatever he showed her, he shows her some shit. And based off this connection right here, that makes a lot of sense that only he is showing her a vision of what he wants the future to be, or what he wants to go to, and what he is going to go to in his own mindset, okay? This is his plan, and that's what he showed Nancy. So it makes so much more sense based off of this connection right here, just with that key point. So let's connect the last key point right here, because that has a major one, all right? The last key point says personal reflection. The bridge of time can also refer to a personal moment of deep introspection where one contemplates their life journey and how past experiences shape their present. So no doubt in my mind, people, we have a major connection right here. So let's get right the fuck into it, because this is a huge one. And you might be extremely confused as to why I'm so excited, but the major connection here, people, is that we have a connection right here to the newspaper articles and to T. Bridges possibly. And you might be extremely confused, but the major thing is that it says contemplates. And we have in this show the famous quote from our boy Jim Hopper from season 1, chapter 1, and the quote that I have talked about in other theories that I have not understood until this moment in time. So like I said, put it in the comments if you know, but the major quote we have from season 1, chapter 1, The Vanishing of Will Byers, that is also the very first time that we see the Hawkins Police Department, which also connects back to our Hawkins Post theory, which led us on the journey to find the name T. Bridges. And that famous quote, people, being by Jim Hopper to Flo, and he says, "Mornings are for coffee and contemplation, Flo. Mornings are for coffee and contemplation." And that we talked about in the Will Byers theory, about how weird it is that he is so calm about that morning, and that he does not give a shit that Joyce Byers called saying her son is missing, and that he really does not believe that Joyce Byers is actually sitting in his office. And when he sees her in that office, people, is when his whole life changes before his eyes. And we see that, and that's when he makes that quote, and that quote connects this. But the major connection, people, is that connects to our newspaper article, okay? And that connects our boy Jim Hopper, once again, like I've mentioned in the Hawkins Post theories. And strictly because all of this started because of the differences from that Boy Who Came Back to Life article that we think Jim Hopper is the one that put up at the end of season 1. And that article is posted up for every single fucking police officer in that room to see the factual truth of what happened to Will, or at least most of the factual truth, and a part of something that's from another article that Hopper and Powell looked up in the Hawkins library earlier in that season. So no doubt in my mind, Jim Hopper is the major culprit right now to the name T. Bridges. And the reason being is because he's connected to all of these scenes that connects all of this. And based off of this Google search and this key point in these meanings, that could make a lot of sense to the mysteriousness of Jim Hopper, and why Jim Hopper, I think, has major involvement in more than we actually know, and more involvement with the whole time involvement in this show, and more involvement with Hawkins Lab in a way that we do not know or have seen yet. And the thing about this bridge of time, okay, the connection here is that the bridge of time meaning right here, what we just looked at, is a way to connect and to reflect, and a way for your mindset to have time and contemplate on past events and things that actually are reality. So if Jim Hopper is the one that's leaving things for himself necessarily to have memory of things that are actually the reality of a situation, why does that make sense? And the only thing that makes sense is that Jim Hopper needs things to help him remember. And I have this thought that Jim Hopper takes those fucking pills all the time, okay? Well, Jim Hopper, in my opinion, no doubt in my mind, there's something weird about him, is that every time we see him wake up, he gets sick, if you haven't noticed. Okay, when he wakes up, except for one time, and that's when he wakes up when he survives at the end of season 3. And we see that in season 4, okay? When he wakes up, we just see him wake up, and then that's when the fucking credits hit, okay? But the major thing about that is normally in the show, when we see him wake up, he always is like getting sick, I've noticed. And he's always taking these pills. And then we know he has this weird fucking involvement at the end of season 1. And that's right before we get that mysterious article being The Boy Who Came Back to Life at the end of season 1. And right after we see that article, once again, we see Jim Hopper. And that's when we see him going to find Eleven in the woods, or leave cookies for her in the woods. The biggest question about that has always been out there is, how does Jim Hopper know that Eleven is even alive and that she's out in the woods? And how does anybody know that is the question. So the only thing about that is that Jim Hopper knows more than he actually knows. But this is the major connection right now, is that newspaper article comes off like a bridge of time and also a bridge of memory. And the only thing I can think of is that it's connected to Jim Hopper, like I said. So if Jim Hopper, for any reason, knows more than he actually knows, he might need to leave reminders for himself. And he might be leaving reminders for himself so he remembers faster. So maybe that is Jim Hopper's deeper involvement, is that Jim Hopper does know things. He just doesn't know how he knows, and he needs to fucking remind himself with these bridges of time and bridges of memory, people. So as always, people, let me know your thoughts and let me know how you like this one. This was kind of just a deep dive into the true meaning of what the bridge of time and the bridge of memory is. But this connects all of these things, just these key points, to all of this, all right? And all of the things we're trying to figure out here. This connects the newspapers. This connects the biggest things in the show being memory and time. This connects our boy Jim Hopper and gives us a little bit of answers as to why he's so mysterious and the deeper picture to his character. This gives us answers to why these newspaper articles are being left and why they are all so different. And then this leads us once again back to the name T Bridges, which led us on this search. So the major thing is, people, is that I think this could be an alias, not necessarily just Jim Hopper, but an alias as just the meaning that the bridges are the ones that are the most factual, that will help you remember the reality of the past. And if anybody has trouble remembering anything like Eleven does in this show, or maybe Jim Hopper like we're seeing, maybe they are going to help this show. And maybe they're going to help this show, and maybe there is one that is truly going to help this show, being in Chapter 7, Season 5, being called The Bridge, people. But let me know your thoughts, people. As always, it's your boy Brandon, DLA Alternative. I know it's been a while. I'm going to get my ass on these uploads. I've been working behind the scenes trying to get things ready so I could just film, edit, and get shit fucking put out to you guys so we can actually start getting a schedule. But also, let me know what you guys want to see this summer. When it starts getting nicer out in Chicago, it gets beautiful out here, and I would love to go to the city and do some IRL videos. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let's just figure it out together, and let's get the world involved with some strange shit and maybe some Stranger Things questions and see their thoughts about Season 5. But let me know your thoughts about that as well. It's your boy Brandon, DLA Alternative, and as always, I love each and every single one of you. Keep subscribing, liking, and following this journey. We are on the road to 1K. I know we are so fucking close, so help us get there. I love you guys, and as always, you already know, we out.